26th regular board meeting of the Plymouth Canton School District. My name is Anupam Chugsadhu. Thanks for being here tonight. It's nice to have a nice big crowd. I would like my fellow colleagues to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Hi, I'm John Lazarowitz. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Penny McCoy, thank you for being here.
Hi, it's Patrick Keogh. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Hi, Doug Brooks. Thanks for coming out.
Good evening. I'm Kate Borninski, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
And McGann, would you please come and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance? McGann is going to lead. With the, oh, I'm sorry.
We can do it after the pledge.
Come on up, come on up. Yep. We'll do it after the pledge. Thank you, McGann.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I was practicing her name because it was so unique. So I had that in my head. I wanted to get McGann up here. So Superintendent Merritt, would you like to walk us through your staff?
Yes, good evening and welcome, especially on the night before the beginning of our holiday season. We appreciate everyone for being here. I'd like to begin by introducing my assistant, Ms. Nicole Lauer, and thank her for taking the minutes this evening for those that cannot be here, as well as Charlie Jones. He's a man behind the scenes that captures the videos for those in the community that cannot attend in person. I'd like to ask the remaining members of the staff to introduce themselves to you, beginning with Mr. Brandon.
Good evening, everyone. Nick Brandon, Executive Director of Communications and Marketing. It's good to see everybody.
Hi, I'm Debbie Piaz. I'm the Chief Finance and Operations Officer. Welcome.
Good evening, Liz Vartanian-Gibbs, Human Resources.
Good evening, Kurt Tiskowitz, Executive Director of Student Services.
Good evening, Beth Rail, Chief Academic Officer. Thanks for being here this evening.
Okay, thank you. I am looking for a motion for the adoption of the agenda, approval of the consent agenda, action item number 20-11-22.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion for the adoption of the agenda, approval of the consent agenda, action item 20-11-22.
Support. Second.
Motion was made by Member Lazarowitz, seconded by Member Kehoe. Would you like to walk us through?
Yes, this evening, believe it or not, although we do have a few open positions, we are not asking you to consider the hiring of champions tonight, but we are asking for your consideration for 3 retirements, as well as tenure recommendation. Well, I think it's 1 tenure recommendation this evening. We have the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on November 12th, 2019, and we have 2 final readings, one of policy 2265, that's child care center staff and volunteers, as well as policy 8462, student abuse and neglect.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. And we have a motion to adopt the agenda and the approval of the consent agenda action item 20-11-22. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. First, I would like to recognize 3 fine teachers who will be retiring shortly. Amy Ganevic, resource room teacher at Halsing School, and Paige is a teacher of specialized services at Workman School, and Carol Williams, Plymouth High School chemistry teacher. So congratulations, and thank you for your service to our school district. Next, I would like to recognize Christina Harry, who is the counselor at Discovery Middle School, and she will be receiving tenure this evening after serving 5 successful years in the position at Discovery Middle School. And here's what Terry Sawchuk would like to share about Christina Harry. I am writing to you to recommend that Christina Harry, counselor at Discovery Middle School, receives tenure from Plymouth Canton Community Schools. Christina's work over the past 4 years at Discovery can only be described as exceptional. Mrs. Harry is one of the finest counselors that I have had the pleasure of working with over my 20 years of being an administrator. Her students truly connect with her. Christina is both demanding and compassionate. In addition, Christina is always learning and contributing to the district and school as a whole. Furthermore, Mrs. Harry serves as part of our PBIS team and facilitates many at-risk student groups. She has also been involved in other activities such as SJ5K, Student Council, and the Discovery School Store. Christina Harry is a highly qualified and highly respected employee at Discovery Middle School. I strongly recommend that she would receive tenure without reservation. So congratulations, Christina, and thank you for our service in our district.
All right, next up is Part B, Celebrating Success, one of the best parts of tonight, and Member Borninski has that honor.
Celebrating Success this evening will honor a group of student volunteers who generously gave their time earlier this month to help make the crossover event such a success. The crossover is a true community service experience. All 5 middle schools have staff and students participating in a fun competition to build school spirit and support the community. The crossover is a charity event that benefits the Plymouth and Canton Goodfellows as well as each middle school's intervention fund. The crossover has raised $19,000 in the 3 years of its existence. These high school students set up each game, judged the games, and finally cleaned up each game. And one of these amazing students even provided the much-needed music soundtrack for the evening. They kept the event moving, allowed the staff and students to focus on the games at hand without worrying about anything else. Mark Zolka, teacher from West Middle School, would like to share a little more with the board about why these students deserve this honor.
Hey, good evening. One of the objectives of the crossover is to provide a community service opportunity for the P-CCS middle schools. This year it went above and beyond by including these wonderful high school students that we're recognizing tonight. This service to the event and community cannot be appreciated enough. I cannot walk out of the gym the night of the event without hearing words of praise from parents and middle school staff members about how great of a job these students did. We are grateful to have such caring and compassionate students in P-CCS that want to make our community a great place for all. I feel privileged to be here tonight to celebrate their extraordinary efforts. With their help, at the crossover this year, we raised over $12,000, and that brings our 4-year total to over $31,000. I also want to say thank you to the Board of Education for taking the time to honor these amazing students and their service to our community. Finding students that have a generous heart and are willing to go above and beyond to make our community a better place is something that's often overlooked this day and age. So I'm privileged to be here. Thank you for shining light on this wonderful event, especially during this season of giving. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Education, I present the following students with the Extra Miler STARS Award for students with tenacity, achieving, and reaching success. And as your name is called, please come up, and all of you stay here because we'll have you go around and shake the hands of the Board of Education afterwards. And Mr. Zalka, you come on up back. And I apologize in advance if I bungle any names. I'm going to try hard not to. First, Charlotte Tabor. Colin McAuliffe. Corey Householder. Hannah Culp. Maddie Sofa. Maddie Turl. Mayadim, Megan Skoog, Megan Ritter, Mia Jakubik, Noah Samuels, Paige Ellis, and Alyssa Pendergrass. Okay. For the students who aren't here tonight, we will make sure they get their awards. I'd like to say congratulations to all of you, and please now go up and shake the board members and administrators' hands. You can go around this side.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you. Great job. Great job. Congratulations. Congratulations.
All right, while they take the opportunity to get a group photo, we will move on to Part C of our agenda, Board Committee Reports. Starting with the President's Report, I had the opportunity to attend the Night of Impact at the Village Theater about a week and a half ago. And I just want to say the panelists had a lot of great things to say about Plymouth Canton Community Schools, ranging from community members to elected officials. And a lot was mentioned about the opportunities and the partnerships that we are building here at Plymouth Canton with other organizations throughout the community. So I just want to say kudos to Plymouth Canton Community Schools and everyone that works really hard to build these relationships. So it was said repeatedly over and over again how great it is for all of those individuals to work with us in our district to have those meaningful opportunities for our students. Member McQueen and I had the opportunity to watch the Park Players play last Friday, and it was amazing. The students did an amazing job, and we kept thinking, this can't be high school. I mean, it was Broadway quality, so I want to say kudos to the kids and Paul Bird and everyone else involved, so we had a great time. And then last Saturday, which was just a couple of days ago, the board engaged in a very informative workshop around Robert's Rules. Who would have thought that Robert's Rule could be so exciting? But we were having so much fun that we went way over our time, and we just wanted more and more. But we will continue to improve upon our policies, our procedures as we do business. And part of the thing is Robert's Rule, I guess the handbook went from that to like this thick. And so we're going to actually meet as a board after one of our future meetings and just to kind of solidify some of that work, because Saturday was just a learning opportunity, and now we want to be able to put that into practice. So you'll see a few little tweaks here and there, but again, we just want to build upon our work and continue to get better. And I always say, as teachers are lifelong learners. They do professional development all the time. And we are trying to do the same thing. We need to get better at our craft and our work. So we are doing a lot with our board workshops. You notice this is maybe our second or third one. We have another one coming up. So again, it's all of us working together to make sure that we provide the best for our school district and our kids. So that is all that I have for the president's updates. Next up is Student Performance and Achievement, the SPA Committee. We have not met since our last meeting, but we are meeting December 4th, which is next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. right here. So I hope to see some of you next week. And next up is Policy with Member McCoy.
We actually met tonight at 5:30. We met in the superintendent's conference room, which is on the first floor. We will not be having a meeting in December because we only have one school board meeting, and so with the break, it's a shortened month. Our next meeting will be January 28th. Again, it'll be 5:30 down in the superintendent's conference room. We have a lot of things we're going to be doing. We had several citizens that came tonight, so it was very exciting.
Okay, thanks. Member Kehoe, Finance and Operations.
Sure, thank you. We had a Finance and Operations meeting last Thursday, the 21st, where we reviewed the October 31st financial statements and talked about the upcoming bond election that we're proposing for this evening. And our next Finance and Operations meeting is Thursday, December 5th, 2019, here in this room at 4:30 p.m. Not as cool as policy, but it still is pretty exciting. You should come and join us.
Thank you. All right, next up is citizens' comments, and I've got two. If anyone else would like to speak, please fill out this form and give it to Nick Brandon. First up is Aiden Morgan, and you will have 3 minutes. If you could give Nick just a minute to bring up the timer.
New timer.
Hello, my name is Aiden Morgan. I am a junior at Salem High School as well as a member of the Park Players Theater Company. As Madam President mentioned, the past 2 weekends we put on Neil Simon's Brighton Beach Memoirs. It was a very fun show. I had a ton of fun helping build the set and just make sure it all runs smoothly. And I would like to thank you for giving your support, both on a personal level as well as in institutional level with the board being there and supporting. It means more than you can know. As you may have noticed, there were multiple costume changes throughout the play. We did not have dressing rooms for it. What we did was there were 2 segmented areas backstage, one for the boys, one for the girls, where they would go and they would change. Typically we use the locker rooms, but they were not available to us. In the bond proposed, there will be an expansion to the theater, including dressing rooms, which we would not have to use the backstage area. It is not convenient. It's just not good. It is much better for us to have our own space for it. The next 2 upcoming weekends, not this one, but the one after and the one after that, we are putting on William Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors, which I am one of the leads in, and I personally invite each and every one of you to come see it. It is a family-friendly show. It is funny. It's about a mix-up of twins, and no one knows which is which. It's a very fun, lighthearted show. You are sure to laugh at. So I encourage all of you to come and see that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up is Rich Dessen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rich Dessen. I'm here as a parent of a Salem swimmer, but I'm also here as a state USA swim official for USA Swimming. It's my understanding that you're considering in this next bond issue to put in a natatorium. And I don't know if you know this or not, but right now there is only one semi 50-meter pool within about a 25, 30-mile radius, and that's at Eastern, which they're looking to have to close theirs down because it needs a lot of maintenance, a lot of usage. I just finished a meet this weekend where we had 600 swimmers show up down at Saline High School. Now that was one of 3 swim meets that was going on this weekend that totaled almost 2,000 swimmers just within a 30-mile area of us. Each of those swimmers pays $5 to do one race. We had 600 swimmers. We averaged what we call 5,700 splashes in just one swim weekend event, which raised $27,000 just for that swim team. When you're looking at putting in a pool or a natatorium, I want you to consider the fact of putting in a 50-meter pool. It's not double the cost of putting in a 25-meter. It is actually comes around between $8 to $10 million, depending on how fancy you want to make one. There is not one available around in the area. There are currently in USA Swimming close to 15,000 swimmers in the area. An average swim meet, anywhere from a small team to large team, can generate $15,000 to $30,000. We run a meet almost every weekend. I travel almost every weekend to a new school to do a meet. An average year for a pool that's being used up in Utica, they can make almost $137,000 a year just by hosting swim meets. Okay? Then you also have scuba diving, you have all the other activities, water polo, things like that, that generate funds for a swim meet. When I come by the park, I see schools that are surrounded by sporting facilities. It would be a disservice if you put in a facility that didn't figure out a way to generate funds. I've sat in a lot of your meetings, you're looking at funding shortfalls, and right now to have one pool at a 50-meter pool could easily supplement the other two pools, plus extra sports activities just by the money it generates. And I see that every weekend when I host the meets. So one thing I'd like to encourage you to do is, and I want to give you an invite, on December 7th, between 8 and 10 a.m. at Livonia Community Rec Center, we are hosting Snowball Splash, which is the Livonia Swim Club, which is a meet that I oversee. We're going to have almost 700 swimmers be there. And I'd like to invite you to come out on the pool deck and just see what happens, and what happens just about every weekend around our area. If you draw a 50-mile circle around Ann Arbor, we have more swimmers in that 50-mile circle than anywhere else in the United States. And the park has produced Olympians in the past. I want you to understand that. So the potential is here, and we have a lot of good swimmers. But again, December 7th, 8 to 10 a.m., I want to invite you all out, and I'll meet you on the pool deck and show you what happens during a swim meet. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is the administrative reports and recommendations, starting with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Tonight, I am going to take my time to share an incredible opportunity with you for our students. When we talk about our theme for the year, leaving a legacy of excellence for all students, tonight we want to tell you how we are going to do just that. If you recall, when we initially introduced our 3 academies at the park, there was a conversation around a 4th academy at that time, and that academy that was discussed was the Business Academy. Currently, 1,700 students declare business as their path at PCCS. Due to the labor market research, student interest in local businesses, desire to keep local talent in the area, discussions about a business academy reemerged. This evening, I'd like to welcome our Chief Academic Officer, Beth Rail, our Director of Partnerships, Mr. Frank Ruggiero, to the microphone to introduce our valued partners. We talked earlier about the value of partners from Wayne State University, as well as Schoolcraft College, to talk about this incredible opportunity on the horizon for our kids. Ms. Rail.
When we start to look at future programming, we should always, one of the things we should always look at is some labor market information and ensuring that our kids have a successful future in front of them. Labor market forecasts are an important piece of this. The Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, also called SEMCOG's, 2045 Regional Development Forecast shows us several things. The fastest growing occupations in Southeast Michigan are professional technical services and corporate HQ, healthcare services, administrative support and waste services, and leisure and hospitality. If you kind of take your focus to the second of these pieces of information on this chart, professional and technical service jobs will grow by 29.2%, about 95,000 jobs, while information and financial activities positions will increase by about 1.5%, another 4,448 jobs in Southeast Michigan. So as we think about that, and we think about Superintendent Merritt's vision to expand offerings to provide all students a pathway to a high-demand career, we've worked with several local partnerships and several local organizations to kind of think about what model works best for our kids. Some of those partnerships were with universities, colleges, and local businesses. The team that was involved in this research and this review included district and building administrators, members of the teaching and learning team, lead teachers, counselors, students, and community partners, including members from the Canton and Plymouth Chambers of Commerce. I'm going to hand it over to Frank, who's going to kind of talk to you a little bit more about these partnerships and then also introduce our partners to share with you their commitment to this.
Thank you. Good evening. Part of my work last year, a big part of my work last year, was to get out and meet with the local colleges and universities and really get a sense of what they could bring to the table for our school district. During that review, it became very clear very quickly that it made the most sense for us to work with Schoolcraft College in Wayne State on this particular project. I have a little experience with these two gentlemen that I'm going to introduce you to in a little bit, but I can tell you that their commitment to their students has been fantastic. And it's a really good opportunity for us to plug right into that. So The greatest benefits for students interested in this business pathway at Plymouth Canton is with these two schools. Representatives for those schools are here, and we'll introduce those to you in a second. But one of the things I think that impressed us most about the Wayne State Schoolcraft partnership isn't just the fact that Wayne State is very well represented on the Schoolcraft campus. They have 2 floors in the Jeffers Center, and if you drive by that any time, that parking lot is full. Wayne State is doing very well on the Schoolcraft campus. But I think the most important piece as we talk to representatives from the schools is they're very committed to their students in terms of they're very committed to accepting transfer credits and making sure that students get through their programs as quickly as possible. And then, of course, a big part of the program at Schoolcraft for Wayne State is their business courses that are available right there. So that made a great deal of sense for us. So as we moved forward on our next steps, the goal was to create more choices for our Plymouth Canton students. So that was the charge from our superintendent, and that's really what we were looking for in this case. The first of these new pathways would be launched in the fall of 2020. So we're on a very fast track, but we're really confident that we can make that happen. And that's with this Business Academy. The Academy would consist of an articulated path with students starting in the 9th grade through post-secondary experiences, and our partners will talk a little bit about what happens after Plymouth Canton experience. In the fall of 2021 as well, we'll launch some additional offerings which could include an early middle college experience along with additional academies that are in high demand with our students. And those are conversations that continue to go on. But the idea is to increase choice for our students. Our next step include creating a new year-long course called Business Technologies that would launch the Academy pathway along with continued discussions with our partners. Those new course recommendations would be, of course, brought to the Student Performance and Achievement Committee, the SPA committee, and that will start even next month at the December meeting. So at this time, I'd like to invite Glenn Cerny, the Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for Schoolcraft College, and Ahmed Ezzedine, the Associate Vice President for Educational Outreach and International Programs and Senior Associate to the President for Special Initiatives at Wayne State University, to share their vision of this partnership as well.
Thanks, Frank. I'm Glenn Cerny from Schoolcraft College. We really are appreciative of being a part of this operation because at Schoolcraft, as you know, collaboration and partnerships is a big key. And if you go back on our campus and see the construction that's going on, you'll see Masco and the Trinity Health System that's going to be part of our campus. And we look at you as another big part of our collaboration. We already have pathways for your students. I wish back in 1977, I grew up in Southeast Michigan. I wish I had these opportunities because then that would have allowed me not to go up to Michigan Tech to go to computer science and computer engineering and go to U of M or go wherever for my finance, which is where I wanted to go. But I didn't have the opportunities to take those classes when I was at Sterling Heights schools. So that's what we're going to try to give your students is the ability to experience the classes in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, but we're also going to give them experiential learning. Part of the core abilities at the campus at Schoolcraft College is to get people internships. We have worked extensively in our curriculum to make sure that we're not talking about just classroom work, but we're also talking about experience, internships. We've got a lot of businesses on our campus right now that we work with on a daily basis, plus the chamber, to get your students access to experience that they're going to be able to develop and leverage across their experience as they go through the curriculum. So we have a path. Dr. Lori Snyder from Schoolcraft College has already mapped the program with the group here, and so that's in place. It's already packaged, and with Ahmad Ezzedine and Wayne State, they're on our campus. So we can get your kids through the programs with a lot less debt for families. And again, that's another big thing at Schoolcraft College. We're always looking for the ability to make sure education is affordable and that the students come in with great experience without a lot of debt. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner.
Thank you. Yes, we are partners. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Speaking on behalf of Wayne State University, we are thrilled about this opportunity. When Frank approached us, it really didn't take more than 2 seconds to say, of course. This makes great sense for us. As you know, Wayne State is one of the top universities in the state of Michigan. We're the third largest in the state, one of 3 research institutions, and the students end with a brand new business school right down on Woodward. And perhaps some of you have maybe seen it. If you have not, please let us know. We'd love to arrange for you to a tour of that facility, which is a state-of-the-art facility. It's one of our crown jewels now on campus. A little bit outside of the campus, but it's expanding the campus. But we have been also at Schoolcraft College since 2014. We started in the Jeffers Center, and now we have more than 500 students at that location who can complete their degree there if they do not want to go to the main campus. We offer and the way Wayne State's program extension and satellite campuses work, it's not a different. I don't have my own faculty. It's really the same faculty that who teach on the main campus teach at our satellite campuses. So it's the same rigorous quality experience that they would have down. And with the opportunities that Glenn talked about, and we have them also we can really expand those opportunities beyond what Schoolcraft offers to really include the internships, to the study abroad experiences that students can have, the research experiences that they can have, even in business areas. Last year we had about 500 applicants from the district. We have about 100 who are enrolled. Many of the other 400 attended to Schoolcraft, so this will guarantee their path to a 4-year degree at more convenient ways and of course more affordable. Although we do have also generous financial aid and scholarship offers and opportunities for the students, whether they transfer or they go directly to us. So we are excited about pursuing this program and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Questions, Member Kehoe?
So I'm super excited about this program. I can't wait to get this thing started. I think this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for our students. A question for Frank and for the team. Are any of the other schools in our area, are they doing a business academy, or are we pioneering this?
Not that I'm aware of. Okay. I'm sure Mr. Cerny's a pretty good businessman here. I'm sure after we set the course, I'm sure he'll be talking to the other schools in the area, but not that I'm aware of. Not necessarily with this path. There may be out there, but I don't know that this path with the direct connection to the college university, I think, I don't know that it exists.
Well, I love the way that we've been able to take the fantastic programs that we have at the park and create specialized learning experiences for people and giving them the focus in small communities in some cases like this. So it's just a great program, and it's a fantastic addition to the things that we do. So I'm super excited about this.
Other members?
I have lots of questions, but not right now.
Not right now? Okay. I want to echo what Member Kehoe said. I mean, this is exactly what was being talked about at the Night of Impact, about these meaningful partnerships, the internships, the relevant experience that kids are getting in the classrooms that they can apply in the real world once they leave us. I'm excited about the early middle college dual enrollment opportunities because that makes college affordable for those that didn't envision it. So imagine our kids getting college credit along with high school credit. How amazing would that be for our kids? And in fact, earning an associate's degree when they leave Plymouth Canton. That's an amazing opportunity for our kids. So I, too, am very excited about this and am hopeful. And I'm hoping Superintendent Merritt can be on the panel next year sharing this opportunity at the Night of Impact.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, shifting as we continue on the dialogue about legacy of excellence. We're talking about programming opportunities for students, but we have to make sure that our facilities really can hold those incredible opportunities for students. So right now we want to shift our conversation to an item on the agenda this evening for your consideration. That's calling for the special election for Bond 2020. On a regular basis, I ask myself the question, how can we leave this legacy? We're celebrating 190 years right now, and we fully intend to be here for 190 more. In order to be here, though, we need to make sure that we take care of our buildings. We need to make sure that we look through a lens of equity, meaning that every single student has an opportunity to experience the P-CCS experience. And so with that, this evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Tiskowitz back to the microphone, really talk to you about our work over the last 12 months. We've been working on this comprehensive 10-year facilities plan. This is going to focus once again, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, on what our kids need and what they deserve. So we know that we have high expectations in our community, and we are really up to the challenge of meeting those expectations. Mr. Tiskowitz, can you share with us how we are going to go about proposing that we make our learning environments safe, innovative, and responsive to the unique needs of today's learners?
Absolutely. Thank you, Superintendent Merritt. As we discussed at our last board meeting, this has been a process that has taken us over a year and a half to compile. As I mentioned last time, we follow our board policy regarding our facility and boundary utilization. And through this work, we developed a plan that really focused on equity and making sure that our students get what they deserve and need. And through this work, our focus was really on several areas, and that was equity, of course, for all of our buildings, that any building our students enter, they would have access to the same type of facilities. The work that we did really zeroed in on a few areas. One of them was, one of the big themes was making sure our kids were warm, dry, and safe. When they go into a building, they want to make sure that our facilities are updated, just like you would update your house. New roof, new parking areas, new windows, ceilings, everything from top to bottom. And making sure that whatever facility they're in, they're going to be safe and secure. When we did this work, as I mentioned last time, we utilized the services of some of our partners from Plant Moran Cressa, who looked at our enrollment projections, and McCarthy Smith, who worked with us on our facilities. They've been a great partner over the last 20 years that I've been here, and also TMP, who did our visioning work. And through this visioning work, we solicited input from our stakeholders, our community, our parents, our staff, our administration, our students, and came up with a list of things for our 10-year master plan. This is where we need to go in the next 10 years. The focus was on safety and security. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years from the last bond to put some security measures in place, and with this 10-year master plan, it would be to enhance those safety and security features that we have at our buildings. It would upgrade all of our facilities. Not one building won't be touched. We'll provide support and things for all of our buildings, including Liberty, with the addition of a new track for the middle school at the park. Equity of our programs within our district facilities. By doing this work, we want to make sure that we have the programs that our students want, that they're available in all of our buildings, that they want to make sure that we have the facilities to support that. We spent a great deal of money in the last bond on our technology. We want to make sure that we refresh this technology, make sure that it is going to last us for the next 10 years. Innovative programming. We talked about this at the last meeting. There are things that are happening out in the business world and in different arenas that the kids will be involved in, from virtual reality to augmented reality, AI, all the different things that the kids are interested in now, coding and things like that. Creating some innovative programs here in our district for our students that will be supported by updated facilities. We want to be able to grow, as you just heard about our business track that we can get our students involved in, what kind of programs we can offer our students. Looking at flexibility within programs, supporting the needs of our students. As you've heard, our facilities for our activities and athletics certainly need to be refreshed and expanded. Looking at classroom furniture replacement, some of our buildings that are currently using the original furniture that was in there, providing some flexible furnishing furniture for our students and today's learners. They're not sitting in rows and doing things the traditional way anymore. We want to make sure that we have furniture that will support flexible learning as well. And we certainly want to make sure that we have that competitive advantage with our other educational options that are here in and around our district. So with that, turn it over to Nick.
Yeah, Superintendent Merritt mentioned really a lens of equity being the umbrella for a lot of the work that was done, but it was also driven by collaboration and engagement with countless stakeholders that were able to give feedback about the plan that was developed. What we'd like to do right now is just take you through some visuals, so if you can turn your attention to the screen, that can help tell the story. Again, with that lens of equity, just starting and looking at elementary equity. One of the aspects through the collaboration that came was the need for the separation of gym space and cafeteria space. Currently, we have buildings that share those spaces, which provides an inequitable experience for students in terms of scheduling, because you have to share that space. There's lots of scheduling challenges. These photos are meant to sort of tell the story about how this room goes from a lunchroom into a gym class and some of the transitions that need to happen in order for that to happen. And so trying to provide equity in those spaces, creating separate spaces for gym and cafeteria spaces. So that's an example of Bird. The next is an example at Isbister, again, another school that shares those spaces. And one of the elements of this proposal is separate spaces for gym and for cafeteria. Continuing with elementary equity, again, another feature would be the idea of having dedicated spaces for art class and music class. Currently, we do have art on a cart at some of our buildings. This is an example of Ferrand. And through this work, you know, the need and the equitable need for dedicated spaces for those two particular areas, art and music, this would allow us to provide that for our students. Shifting to ideas of the parking lots at certain buildings. Again, safety, safety, safety being one of the cornerstones of the work. Making sure that these parking lots are set up for student safety, for family safety, and also convenience. As you can see, this is an example of Erickson, which has a parking lot that backs up into a subdivision into a major street. And you can see just kind of the challenges of all the congestion of cars that stack up. If you shift to a similar idea at Hulsing, you can see that in this case, it backs up into a subdivision and the grass has to be utilized a lot for parking. So the need for parking lot expansion, again, for safety and convenience. Shifting to middle school, just taking a look at our classroom furniture. And what you see here is a comparison between some of our current classroom furniture and what we would call a recommended 21st century learning space. If you look on the left side at some of the current furniture, you can see mismatched tables, not a ton of flexible seating, and kind of just making it work. If you look to the right, what you'll notice with the modern learning spaces is things that are flexible. Most of the elements that you see here are on wheels. And lots of different types of seating. You can even see tables that are set up to allow for whiteboards to enhance the individualized experience for students. And so trying to make upgrades for classroom furniture to give all students that equitable experience in the classroom. Looking at high school equity, we begin with the Salem High School Performing Arts Center. Of course, we really want to recognize the student voice that has led to this work. Dalton, who was such a regular part of our board meetings and brought his passion to bringing this to our attention. And we're thankful to have Aiden here tonight, of course, who already spoke to it this evening. Kind of looking at the needs here. If you look in the top two pictures, you can see the seats that need attention. But also you'll notice in the background of that picture, the stage is where the building is happening right now for a lot of sets. So as part of this work, the need for dressing room, as Aiden so perfectly captured earlier, and the scene shop, which gives the group an opportunity to build things using another space. And these are what our students deserve in this program, absolutely. And looking at just the auditorium as a whole, just getting a full makeover and a full refurbishing. Here's some other images from the seating that is in the current high school auditorium. Looking at our music program and specifically our marching band, There would be opportunities for a dedicated space for practice for our marching band, which currently practices in the parking lot when they do outdoor practice. This is a challenge not only with weather, but also when you look at the surface. And the feedback that was given through visioning work and collaboration was how beneficial it would be for marching band to practice on the surface that they compete on, which is synthetic turf. And so that would be one of the ideas that's into the work. Looking at the indoor band practice space, the image on the right is of the full marching band doing an indoor practice. You can see kind of the space limitations that are there. And then for storage on the left, the limited storage space that exists in the current facility on the left side with the cabinets that are in the hallway. For middle school and high school equity, looking at, for example, our robotics team representing here a lot of our after-school activities and athletics programs that have limited space to use. So you can see here, these are images of high school and middle school robotics using hallways in Canton High School to do practice. And in the top left, that's a middle school program actually using our CTE auto shop for robotics. So one of the elements would be, again, the dedicated space for activities and clubs to be able to hold practices and competitions, which is a great segue into one of the real features, which is the Innovation Hub. And I'd like to pass it to Ms. Rail to give us some information about that.
And we think about, as Superintendent Merritt mentioned, the next 190 years. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we do know things that are happening in the business world in the present and near future. Some of those things include things like Mr. Tiskowitz talked about, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, but also thinking about collaboration and how we use space and how we have some dedicated space for innovation. So as we think about 21st century and beyond programming, both at the curriculum level and after school events, thinking about a dedicated space for robotics, thinking about some collaborative space, some flexible and agile space that can be used during the day for curriculum that wraps its hands around and wraps its arms around things like I mentioned earlier, but then also after school can house things like our Science Olympiad team, our Quiz Bowl, and all of those other activities that are critically important for young people, but right now are using hallway spaces or a corner of a classroom. So this Innovation Hub would be able to have a very agile and flexible space to allow for these things to happen, as well as to allow us to grow for the future, for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years.
And as mentioned, this, like a lot of other spaces, would serve both middle school and high school students in the activities and clubs that they're part of. Looking at our athletics facilities would be a first impression for a lot of people both in our community and outside our community. And looking at just the equitable experience in terms of concessions, you can see this is an example of some of our current concessions facilities. And then the opportunity for team rooms and bathroom facilities. And these are images of our current facilities as they stand right now. In the bottom right corner is an example of the team room for most of our outdoor athletics teams. And with that, we'd like to bring in Ms. Debbie Piaz to go through some of the numbers.
Thank you. So funding the 10-year master plan would create the ability for us to raise approximately $275 million based on our positive increases in taxable values in this community and across the P-CCS attendance area. We're able to generate about the entire amount of funding needed to finance these visions, needs, and various things that were highlighted earlier. We're maintaining a maximum of 4.02 mils. So for the first year, it'd be approximately 0.98 mils in year one and an average of 1.65 mils over the life of the bonds. Again, these are 20-year bonds sold in 3 series, in 2020, in 2023, and in 2026. And in those 3 series, maintaining that no mill rate increase at 4.02 mils. All right.
So this evening, I hope that you see the incredible opportunity that is before you. When we think about the strength of our community, we always say that the cornerstone of any strong community is a strong school system. And I think that we pride ourselves in the collaboration that we have and the investment of our community within our schools. This process this evening gives you the opportunity to call for an election and give our community the opportunity to decide, is this the next step that we want to take in terms of investing in our students and investing in their future by investing in our facilities and supports from them. We know that there's challenges to school finance alone, and so when we have opportunities to fund much needed projects, the general fund just is not able to cover $275 million worth of needs. And believe me, this list has been pared down over time because we have many more needs than that over 10 years. And so there are few opportunities that we have to finance these much needed projects, and a bond is one opportunity to do so. It is fiscally responsible way for us to remain competitive and to give our students what they need in order to succeed in the future. So this evening, I'd like to have an opportunity for you to discuss any questions that you may have. We have our team, our consultants here from TMP, McCarthy and Smith, as well as legal counsel here, Mr. Crowley, to answer any questions that you may have before considering to take this opportunity out to our community for a vote to invest in our schools. I will tell you, this is a big ask. We went out to our community in 2013, and our community overwhelmingly supported the needs in terms of passing a bond that brought forward Liberty Middle School. When you saw the pictures there about a 21st century learning classroom, that was Liberty Middle School. That's furniture that we have in one of our middle schools. We have 4 other middle schools. And also, when we think about 24 buildings that will receive new classroom furniture, all students have a right to that opportunity. And so with that, we'd like to continue that work. We've been great stewards of the money, and having an opportunity to do this with 0 mil increase, keeping our 4.02 is an opportunity that we would like to have our community consider in terms of investing. So with that, we're going to open up for questions from the board.
I believe we have to make a motion first before we discuss this, or can we ask questions?
Presentation, we can do
Okay.
it either way.
All right, go
So
ahead.
it's a presentation, and then we can make a motion afterwards.
All right. So questions, comments? Go ahead, Member Kehoe.
I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think that the work that's gone on throughout the district, at the administration, with the teachers, with the parents, with the community, in understanding both our needs, the things that we absolutely have to do, but also the things that we can do to really take this district to be, continue to be the leader that we have been in the last 50 to 100 years, or actually 190 years. It is a chance for us to continue to make those kinds of investments. And I've been really proud of this community and how they've supported it. And I am really proud of the work that we've done as a board and as an administration in being good stewards of the community's money in the past bond projects. And I've seen how we've transformed the educational experience, whether it be the technology investments or making sure that we've got safety and security that are present there, the new buses. And this bond is a mixture of all of those things. The thing I'm particularly excited about is it's really touching every aspect of the district. It's touching every single school building. It's making sure that we have the envelopes of those buildings safe and secure, the roofs, the windows, the doors, making sure that we have the right security things in place. And then it's making sure that we've got the right educational processes in those buildings as well. And then the innovations here. I've been a huge supporter of the work that we do from an activities perspective, and I see all the tremendous work that we're doing to really take our activities and the programs that we have that go beyond the athletics and really taking them to the next level and making them so they're competitive with surrounding districts and really are first-class programs as part of this process. The work at the theater, the work that we're doing in the innovation space especially, I mean the multi-purpose rooms that we'll have as part of the other spaces to you both for athletics and activities, and then also increasing the investment that we do on the athletic programs to make sure that we have the right surfaces, the right fields, the right opportunities to really support our students. When you have over 6,000 students, there's a lot of wear and tear that happens on those things, and there's a lot of scheduling chaos that we have in trying to get people into these different activities. And I think that we're sometimes leaving our kids behind. If you were to look at a traditional school district, they might have 3 separate schools with all of these facilities duplicated across them. We've been able to drive some good economies of scale by having those things in one location, but we're bursting at the seams in a lot of those programs, and I think this really goes a long way towards helping closing those gaps. So I'm personally very excited about the opportunity to give the community a chance to support us, and I'm excited about this program.
Nick, I just want to comment on the pictures that you showed of Salem Auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, Member McCoy and I were sitting there looking at those exact seats.
Mhm.
They were cracked throughout. And then we looked at the floors, we looked at the seating and the temperature. I mean, it was, thank you for pointing that out, because we were just talking about thinking our kids deserve better. And that environment, it just does not scream 21st century learning environment, performing environment. So I just want to thank you for capturing that image, because I was thinking, should I take a picture of this? But thank you for taking it.
Sure.
Other comments?
I have some.
Member McCoy?
So I was on the committee that worked on this, and I'm really proud of the work that the administration and the building administrators, they worked together so well. They really collaborated. Nobody was, I really need this for my building more than anybody else. They were willing to give and take to elevate all of our students. So the big thing is the equity. Our students need to learn in equitable buildings that are warm, safe, dry, accessible, and inviting. So our district needs to, we need to attract back the 2,500 students who live within our district who are choosing other schools, and we need to retain the students we currently have. Our families have choices. They can choose to live other places, they can choose to send their children to other places, but we need to make sure that we are the only and the best choice for all of the students who live within our boundaries. And I think that these facilities upgrades will go a long way towards doing that. If we have equity within our buildings, if they all have a separate gym and cafeteria at the elementary level, it will be easier for them to schedule specials. It will be easier for everyone. It's more inviting when parents are looking at homes and they want to tour the schools. Having an inviting looking building is going to go a long ways. And then for the other upgrades, our activities and athletics, there's so many programs that are running. My daughter did Winter Guard, and they had to practice in the cafeteria because there was no available space. And that's not really the best space to be practicing in. And that's what a lot of our students are doing. Or the theater. Students should not be changing backstage because that's the only option they have. It just is not 21st century. And we do need to upgrade our facilities. So I'm very excited that we can offer this to our students, and I certainly hope that our community will agree with this.
Member Brooks, and then we'll come back to Member Kehoe.
Yeah, I would just like to thank everyone that was involved with putting this plan together and all the hard work that they've done in the district. Thanks.
Just, Ms. McCoy mentioned something, and I forgot when I was giving my perspective. One of the things that helps keep our property values high is this fantastic school district that we have. And we have to continue to make those investments in that. And I think that this is a key component to that. When you look at the attractiveness of this community, one of the primary drivers of that is the fantastic schools that we have. And we have done more with less than any other community around. We're at the bottom end of the foundation allowance in terms of what we get. We've got one of the lowest millage rates around, and we're not looking to increase that millage rate. We're looking to keep it the same, but to make the necessary investments back into the school.
Member Borninski?
So I too want to thank the work that was done on the subcommittee for facilities. You worked hard and you came up with what I think is an excellent plan. Over the last summer, my husband's workplace had an open house, and they had moved into a brand new building, and so they invited all the families to come and tour. And it was really quite interesting for me because I saw firsthand what some of these flexible and collaborative workspaces look like and how they're being used. So it was just really eye-opening for me. And you know, this is what is being done in industry today. And if we can give our students those kinds of experiences, they're going to have a leg up. So I'm excited about that. I agree with everything that was said about equity between our buildings, and how tight we are on space. And, you know, if we can prevent kids from having to practice swim at 5 a.m., that would be excellent. So I am really excited and happy that we can offer this to our voters with no millage increase.
Any other comments? Nope. I mean, you guys said it all. I had a bunch of notes, but you pretty much said it all. I just think about, and I'm looking at our vision. P-CCS will deliver an innovative educational experience. How are we doing that when we have buildings and infrastructure that is just not keeping up to date with what our kids need, with the pictures that we saw? So we owe it to the kids to make sure that we provide them with those opportunities. And, you know, having served on the School Finance Research Collaborative, the research clearly shows that we are not adequately funded. We are not getting the money that we need for our kids to provide them with the opportunities that they need and deserve, as has been echoed already here. So I want to make sure that we do what we can as a community to provide that. So many communities have gone out for bonds over the last few years and have successfully passed them and are building infrastructure and are more competitive than us. So we need to make sure that we stay competitive, as Member McQueen mentioned. And we heard about the inequities that exist in our districts. We're dealing with outdated buildings and they're not getting any younger. So how do we pay for that when the state doesn't give us the adequate funding that we need? So we just have to think about, and I think about what Aiden said, and what Dalton's been saying about the performing arts, and I think about all of the facilities that are needed, and then I think about what Superintendent Merritt said about our legacy. And when I think about legacy, what kind of legacy do we want to leave for our kids? And I know in my heart that I will do whatever it takes, and I will fight, and I will advocate for the best opportunities for the kids in Plymouth Canton Community Schools. And this is a great opportunity for us to leave that great legacy. So I think, for me, this is a no-brainer. Our kids deserve better, and we have an opportunity to provide that for them. So that's it for me. Okay, I guess I'm looking for a motion now.
Madam, I'm sorry. Do you want to do it?
I do. Madam President, I would like to make a motion that we consider approval of a resolution calling for a bond election, action item 2011-23, final reading.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Member McQueen, seconded by Member Kehoe. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Oh,
Should we
sorry.
read it again?
Actually, thanks for reminding me. Member McQueen read the entire resolution at the last board meeting, so I'm going to ask my colleagues, should we read that again? I feel
Doesn't
like
hurt to.
Doesn't hurt? Okay. Who would like to have
I'd be
the honor?
happy to read it.
Thank you. So we're going to go through the, can we pull that up, Nick? Oh, thanks.
So we're going to read the motion and then the official ballot, or just the motion?
The resolution.
The resolution.
Just the resolution. Okay. So this is action item 20-11-23. It's final reading. The resolution is the Plymouth Canton Community Schools, Counties of Wayne and Washtenaw, State of Michigan. At a regular meeting of the Board of Education in the Plymouth Canton Community Schools, Counties of Wayne and Washtenaw, Michigan, the school district, held in the school district on the 26th day of November 2019 at 7 p.m. local time. The following preamble and resolution was offered by Member McCoyne and supported by Member Kehoe. Whereas the school district is contemplating undertaking various capital improvements to facilities within the school district, which include the remodeling, equipping, re-equipping, furnishing, and refurnishing of school buildings, performing arts center, activity and athletic fields, playgrounds, and other facilities, the erecting, equipping, and furnishing of new stadium, activity, and athletics facilities, and a maintenance storage facility, and secure entryway, classroom, gymnasium, and natatorium additions to existing school buildings, activity and athletic fields, and other facilities, the acquisition and installation of instructional technology, infrastructure, and equipment, the preparation and development and improvement of sites at school buildings, playgrounds, activity, and athletic fields, and other facilities, and the purchase of school buses, collectively the projects. Whereas the school district is in the opinion that in order to finance the projects, a bond proposal should be submitted to the electors at a special school election. Whereas the school district is a Michigan General Powers school district operating under the revised school code as amended, and as such, the school district's elections are governed by the Michigan Election Law, Act 116, Public Acts of Michigan, 1954, as amended, the Michigan Election Law. Whereas the school district desires to submit a bond proposal to the electors at a special school election to be held on March 10th, 2020, which election shall be conducted by the school district's election coordinator. Whereas Michigan election law requires that the school district certify the ballot language for any proposal to be submitted for voter approval and an allowable election date to the school district's election coordinator not later than 4 p.m. on the 12th Tuesday before the election date. Whereas the school district desires to approve and certify the above referenced bond proposal and to authorize the superintendent or her designee to submit the certified bond proposal to the school district's election coordinator. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Plymouth Canton Community Schools, Counties of Wayne and Washtenaw, Michigan, that 1. The school improvement bond proposal attached hereto as Exhibit A is hereby approved and certified and shall be submitted to the electors at a special school election to be held on March 10th, 2020. 2. The superintendent or her designee are authorized to submit the above referenced proposal to the school district's election coordinators on or before 4 p.m. on December 17th, 2019, which is not later than the 12th Tuesday before the special school election to be held on March 10th, 2020. 3. The superintendent or her designee is further authorized to take any and all action required under Michigan election law with regards to the special school election to be held on March 10th, 2020. 4. All resolutions and part of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded. Now this would be where we would vote.
Take a vote, yep. Okay. So the motion has been made and is on the floor, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay. The ayes have it, the motion has been adopted, 5-1 for action item number 20-11-23 to consider approval of resolution calling bond election final reading. Okay, thank you. All right, next up is item 3, teaching and learning.
Thank you. The first thing that we have tonight is a presentation of, and it's an update about the Read by Grade 3 legislation. So I want to introduce and ask Dr. Deirdre Brady, Director of Curriculum and Professional Development, to share with us some updates.
Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to share with you an update regarding the third grade reading legislation. This law comes into full effect during this school year. Previously, Maureen Malloy has been before you and given you some updates and has shared with you how the district is preparing for the implementation. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing with you the law to make sure that we all have that foundational piece, sharing with you the work that we're doing to address it, provide information regarding the state's release of cut scores because that is new information, and then also discussing how that law could impact our students. So this law, House Bill 4822, was passed in October of 2016, but this is the first year that it comes to fruition. The law was created to support greater proficiency by the end of third grade. Part of the law states that students may be retained if they're more than a year behind in reading. The proficiency is based on MSTEP, which is our state test. After M-STEP scores are calculated, which is towards the end of the school year, the Michigan Department of Education, or MDE, is going to be providing the Center for Educational Performance and Information, which is also called CEPI, the information about students who did not meet the cutoff score. Then CEPI will take that information and notify parents whose children could be up for retention underneath this law. I'll share more information about that momentarily. So we've done a lot of work previously regarding this to make sure that parents are knowledgeable, teachers are knowledgeable, and that we're supporting our students. So in preparation for this year, we've done many things. I'm not going to read all of those pieces that are on the slide, but I would like to highlight a couple things. The first is the very first one on the right-hand side, the Individual Reading Improvement Plans, or IRIPs. So the law requires districts to assess reading skills of all students in K through 3 at least 3 times a year. And for us, we use the benchmark assessment system. That's something that has been brought before you in the past. It's called the BAS. Students who perform below expectation would require that IRIP, and so that's something that we've had in place for a few years now. Those plans are created in partnership between the teacher and the family, so that we have at-home pieces that might be done. There's at-school pieces that also are done in order to better support the student. The other piece that I would like to highlight is providing additional information, so the letters to families, resource packets. We wanted to make sure that families understood this because it is somewhat complex and it has been in the news, and we wanted to make sure that parents understood, especially how their child's progressing, number one, but also the implication of the law that could possibly occur for their child. So to help with that, we've sent letters to families, making sure that they understand what's happening and what's coming. Also, we've had family literacy nights to make sure parents know, and we've utilized a parent advisory committee to help share information and provide us with feedback on the process. When the law was originally shared with districts, there was conversation as to what they were going to use to determine what was determined as proficiency. On the M-STEP, you can see here that a level 3 is considered proficient, and students need to score an M-STEP of 1,300. Then they need to score a 1280 to be what's considered partially proficient. Initially, the thought was by many districts around the state, where would that cutoff be? Because if that level is proficient, that's a very different number than if it were partially proficient, for example. We weren't notified until this past May on what that cutoff would be. And so you can see I have a red arrow that's pointing to the not proficient because the state determined that a 1252 was going to be the cutoff for the law. So you'll notice that 1252 falls in the range of a level 1 or not proficient as according to M-STEP. So let's look at it in a little bit of a different way. So these are the 3 categories for the Read by 3rd grade law. So category 1 are students who on the M-STEP scored a 1252 or lower. So those students are subject to the retention policy. So they would be provided resources and supports. That's a mandated expectation. Students who fall into category 2 are between the range of 1253 or 1271 on the M-STEP. So additional reading supports are recommended for those students, but they're not required according to the law, although we would want to make sure in Plymouth Can that all of our students are supported. In category 3, those are students who are at a 1272 or higher. So they meet what the state is saying is the 3rd grade reading requirement, and there's no additional supports or retention policy that is in effect for students. But again, in Plymouth Can, if we have students who need additional supports, we will make sure that we provide those. So I took the last 2 charts and I put them together to kind of show you how those impact each other. So instead of the red arrow, I have it in red down below. So you'll notice that that 1252, again, falls into the not proficient range, and that we have some students who might have scored partially proficient or not proficient who wouldn't be subject to the retention policy, but of course we'd want to make sure that we support students. So along with that, there are things that are called good cause exemptions. This allows students to be promoted into 4th grade under certain specifications. So a district team will be determining if a good cause applies into each situation. We want to make sure that each child's individual needs are met. So we want to look at each case separately because each child is important. One of the most important components is to provide every student what they need to learn. So that's what we're looking at. So that you're aware of what some of those good cause exemptions are. So for example, up on the board, students with IEPs or students with 504s or students who have been in our EL program for less than 3 years could be cause for a good cause exemption. Also, students who have been previously retained and received intense intervention, they would also be possible for a good cause exemption. There might be students who recently enrolled into our school district and we don't have evidence that they've previously had an IRIP, those individual plans, so they could be cause, or a parent could ask for a good cause exemption. There is also the opportunity for a portfolio. So under the portfolio, we would have students, teachers, who and students who would show work examples, ELA work examples that meet the standard, and then the student would also have to show that they've met math, science, and social studies standards to be able to do all that. So there's a lot that's going on with those pieces, and we want to provide students who scored not proficient, regardless of whether they're subject to retention. We want to provide support. So I'd like to share just a little bit about some of those supports that we've been doing. We do have intervention supports that are in place. We have EL supports. I know that we've brought many times to the different EL pieces. And then we're also, our MTSS process would be part of how we're supporting students. And that's one of the other strategic objectives that we're working on this year in teaching and learning. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact to us at home in Plymouth Canton. So in order to understand what the law may have looked like, MDE made a prediction to say approximately 5% of students in school districts might be in the retention law. So for us, for last year, we had 1,112 students who were assessed on the MSTEP. So to us, 5% was about 56 students. But when we looked at the data, if the law had applied this past school year, how would that have impacted us? Just so that we had, in preparation to kind of know, we wanted to look ahead. So we see that last year of those 1,112, when we look at who scored 1252 or lower this past spring, we had 9 students who fell in that. So when the state said 5%, we thought maybe it'd be around 56, but we had 9. Of those 9, 7 students fell into one of the good cause exemptions that might apply. 2 students would have fallen not under any of those that I had shared previously, except for perhaps if a parent would have asked for that. So what are we doing moving forward? Because we've done some pieces in the past to help get ready, but this is the year that things come to fruition, like I said. So our next steps are to continue to make sure that we update parents with regarding the law. So that's going to be happening this coming January. What we'll be doing is to notify parents regarding the process that the state is doing to notify, as I shared previously, going through CEPI, the notification that will happen, but then also what our process is going to be. So the state has said that CEPI, they anticipate CEPI will be notifying parents by June 1st. The state test gets done in springtime, so we're not sure the turnaround, but they're saying that perhaps by June 1st. After that notification, parents of any student who missed that cutoff will be contacted by the district. We want to make sure that parents are knowledgeable, so district staff will be contacting all parents who get the notification that their child could be up for retention. We want to make sure that we're helping them make an informed decision. Parents who would like to request the exemption that I talked about that parents can do, they have 30 days to do that. So if they get notified June 1st, let's say, they would have to July 1st to be able to make that, send something to the district. The district then has 30 days prior to the school to make a decision if we're going to honor that exemption or not. So that's approximately the beginning of August, because we begin at the beginning of June. We understand that legislation is confusing, right? It can be scary for some of our parents because we're talking about retention. Our team, my curriculum instruction team, as well as the teaching and learning department, we have a plan in place to be ready to help parents, to support parents, and make sure that they have the ability to make an informed decision. We don't see this as only compliance. Yes, this is something that's coming from the state, but this is more than a compliance issue for us. We want to ensure that all students have what they need to be successful, which is really the most important factor for us. We're prepared to do that. At this time, I invite feedback or questions.
Questions, comments? Okay. Member McQueen?
So my first question is, was all this information for the families, is that been disseminated in like home languages so that all the parents have the
Correct.
information that they need?
Yes.
And
it-
understand the process?
Yes, it is emailed directly to families, and we send it in 7 or 8 different languages, the most common languages that we have. Yes.
Yep. And we also, Dr. Brady also created a video that was shared with parents that was also created so that it had subtitles in multiple languages as well.
And then what is the process for students who do not take the step?
So it could also be, so My Access is an assessment that would also be used, and students who use that typically are students who have IEPs, so that they could fall under the exception.
I'm just talking about kids who are not standardized
So we would
tested.
So we could show one of the other ways. For example, the portfolio that I shared before, that would be one way that we could show that they're making progress.
And then my last question was, so you had this hypothetical example that 9 students could be not proficient enough, and then you would have good cause exemptions for 7 of them, but 2 perhaps not. So then what happens to those students?
So those 2 students, their parents might want to exempt them. So that parents would write a letter to Ms. Merritt, Superintendent Merritt, and then we would determine if we're going to honor that good cause exemption as a district.
So then, well, if you did not honor that, what would be the plan for those students?
So I
So whether we honored
Okay.
that good cause exemption or not, which, you know, we could talk more about
Yeah.
that. But whether we honor that good cause exemption or not, obviously what we would be doing would be intense intervention with all students that fall in our partially proficient or not proficient range, whether they're subject to this law or not. So we individual reading intervention plans, reading interventionists, differentiated instruction, all of those things that need to happen to ensure that all of our young people can be successful.
Okay. Yes, Member Kehoe?
Yeah, so a number of questions. Piggybacking on what Ms. McCoy said, we have students that don't believe in the M-STEP. They feel that there are parents, more likely, that don't believe in the M-STEP, and they just refuse to take that test.
We have some.
Which is their right.
Which is their right. Agreed.
Their right.
How do those students get assessed as part of this process?
So this comes from the state, from CEPI. So MDE to CEPI all goes off of the M-STEP expectation. So we're going to be expected to show that students have those standards, like I said, going back to the portfolio piece. So some of the items you're going to hear about next when we talk about ELA, we have a brand new writing component that's coming in. We would be able to pull some of those pieces to show the reading and the BIS, our BS scores, our ELA assessments that we have at the elementary, and then also being able to show social studies, science, and math.
So we use other assessments to help make sure that we capture the strengths or weaknesses of the individual student to make sure that we're serving them appropriately, even if they don't take the M-STEP.
Correct.
Yes.
We have internal components, which, again, we'll talk about some ELA ones in a moment, about some things that we're doing with that. We have assessments. We have new writing assessments this year, for example, that we could use to be able to show that students are meeting standards.
Great. And then on the subject, the same point that Ms. McCoy made about those 9 students, it'd be really interesting to see data on those 9 students after this year's assessment. I know from looking at my own kids that kids learn at different rates, and sometimes you have kids that just haven't reached that level of maturity at that appropriate age to be able to do that. And I'd be curious to see where those kids performed, because those kids were not subject to the law last year.
Last year was not,
So I'd
correct.
love to see what happened with those 9 students, not individually,
Right.
as a cohort. Tell us what happened with the intense intervention and the work that we've done with those 9 students after we get the results back from this year's testing. And then the last thing that I'm worried about is how do we support those students that might be subject to that? It seems like we're going to have a really small number, and I'm very concerned that we have a process that puts all the burden on the parent to reach back out to us and send us a formal letter to the superintendent. I think that we need to given the incredible small number, that we should have one-to-one conversations with those parents about their rights and their options.
And that's when I shared that the district would be reaching out. That's what we will be doing. Each parent will have a phone call from somebody that they have a relationship with already in the district,
Great.
to be able to have that personal conversation to help them make an informed decision for their child.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate the informed, or the
And the other thing to know is, it's not that we wait for that time. All of the families that are involved in this already are being serviced through IRIPs and all of those things. You know, we certainly don't want to wait to be told that our young people are struggling. We know, and we get out in front of that and help do a lot of intervention with that.
if those parents are surprised, we've failed.
Absolutely.
Member Berninski?
So, echoing the last statement, if they're surprised we failed, I just want to understand better how students who have not reached the cut score, or students who have not taken the test, how that's reported to CEPI. Does it just automatically, their names go to CEPI?
MDE automatically sends names based on M-STEP after the assessment is scored, and there's a grade for it, a score for it. The state automatically sends that to CEPI. We don't do that process.
Right. Okay, so if a student didn't take the test because their parent opted them out, would that still go automatically to CEPI?
I don't believe so, no.
We can check into that, but it's my understanding that would not
'Cause
happen.
What I'm concerned about is these students whose families have opted them out, that then all of a sudden they're just going to get an automatically generated letter from CEPI.
From CEPI.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is to ensure that we continue to have strong partnerships with families, because, you know, this is their young person. So we'll continue to have those conversations because ultimately it's their decision.
Right. Well, and I guess what I'm getting at is if a family opts out, and so they're using an alternative way to prove that their child has met the, you know, the proficiency, that you don't want to create a situation where they're automatically getting a letter from the state and they're like, wait a minute, you know, we opted out of this, but my child is proficient. And you don't want it to be a surprise to them.
Right.
That's something that we can contact MDE to see how they're going to handle that situation when they report to CEPI.
That'd be a really good
And then we can
follow-up.
message to the families to ensure that the families know, because we can't control the letters coming from the state, but we can
Right.
certainly control helping our parents understand the process and how to help support them.
How do we report students who are being measured by an alternative assessment or portfolio?
At this time, we don't have to. So if we have students whose families are choosing to have them not take M-STEP, they still report in the system, so we still see them in the system and they score a 1.
Right.
We don't have to then provide alternative information at this time to the state. That's not something that's
Okay.
required at this time.
Okay. All right. So it's something to figure out.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And to follow up on Member Borninski's question, so the burden that really falls on the school district to have the portfolio in case the school district is audited for those students, right?
Correct. And so part of that would be why we put information into Illuminate, because then that helps us have that documentation there. We can also use, for example, report card scores to be able to show, because the report card, for example, has standards on it, so we can show those pieces.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Okay, I just want to say, we talked about this in SPA last month, or was it earlier this month? I can't remember, it was so long ago. But I want to applaud the team on just making sure they're getting out to the parent groups. They're trying to make sure parents understand the cut score, because originally everybody was alarmed by the proficiency score, the proficient score that is put out by MDE. And we just know that retention based on one state assessment given on 1 or 2 days is just not good policy. So that is something that's being considered at the state level, is going away with that piece of the legislation. It's still in debate, but again, we want to make sure that we have those support systems in place for all of our kids regardless of where the
Regardless
law
of
goes.
the mandate that we're
Yep.
we're supporting our students.
Actually, I have one other question.
Yes, Member Kehoe?
So it was great that we had the data from 2018-19. If we were to go back 2 or 3 years before that, what does our data look like? Has the intensive interventions that we've undertaken as a district made a difference?
That's information that we can get to you.
Okay.
You want data for last 2 years, maybe?
Directional. I don't need to
Sure.
have the specifics. If the data is easily found and you can present it, that would be great. If it's not, then
I can easily get that information.
that'd be fantastic.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you
And
for
we're
that.
going to keep Dr. Brady right here so she can kick off our update of K-12 English Language Arts.
Because you haven't had enough of me, I'm going to stay. So, good evening again, of course. It's my pleasure to be here to talk about ELA. There's been a lot of things that have happened over the last year. We were here about this time last year talking about our English language arts and the things that were happening. And Carrie Fromm and I are very excited to be here to share with you some of the good work that has been happening. The curriculum instruction team, which includes 3 full-time elementary coaches and 3 full-time secondary coaches and 5.2 coaches, as well as the curriculum coordinators. We're focused on student learning every day, and we want to make sure that we're creating a legacy of curriculum that is best for all students and supports their learning. As was shared a few weeks ago, the Teaching and Learning Department is focusing on 3 strategic objectives this year. The 3rd strategic objective is by the end of the 2021-2022 school year, we're going to develop and consistently implement a pre-K through 12th grade vertically aligned standards-based curriculum in assessmental areas. So what we're sharing tonight directly relates back to this strategic objective, which is obviously our curriculum. Currently, our ELA curriculum sits in 3 different phases inside of the cycle that I've shared with you before. Our high school teachers are sitting in phase 2. Our 11th and 12th grade high school teachers are sitting in phase 2. So that's revising and developing. They're currently looking specifically at our courses that occur in 11th and 12th grade, taking a look at standards and doing some work with that you'll hear about soon in the future. Our K-5 word study and writing and our 6th through 10th grade ELA are sitting in phase 3, which is the implementing phase. That means that this year they are in the phase of rolling it out to everyone. So we're past the piloting phase and we rolled it out for all classes. And then our K-5 reading, you'll notice, is in phase 4. That's evaluating and adjusting. This is content that we've rolled out quite a few years ago. And so we are coaching strategies in reading. We coach in many areas, but we are particularly coaching our K-5 teachers in reading. They're familiar with curriculum now, and we can really work on instructional strategies. In order to provide you with more specific information, I'm going to ask Carrie Fromm, who's our curriculum coordinator for ELA, to come up and share the work that we've been doing.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm excited to be here to share with you all the good work that's been happening around ELA. Our work is really focused around 3 areas: creating a vertically aligned curriculum based on the Michigan academic standards, having a balanced approach to literacy that's grounded in research, and providing our teachers with the support that they need to be successful in meeting the needs of our students. During our work, we've engaged teachers from the classroom, the EL department, special education staff to be a part of our writing curriculum. We are grateful for those teachers and their dedication to making sure that P-CCS students have a viable, vertically aligned curriculum. So we're going to start with elementary and reading. Our initial curriculum was rolled out in the fall of 2017. During the last school year, we had a curriculum team come and work on identifying any places where revisions were needed. We also worked on creating common assessments that teachers have the opportunity to review and pilot this school year. Now that teachers are familiar with the reading workshop model, the curriculum and instruction team is working with them to hone their craft so that they can continue to work towards meeting the needs of all their students. Our team is also working on educating and supporting building leaders in this process so that they can support their teachers with this important work. In addition to support being provided by the curriculum and instruction team, we are also fortunate to welcome back educational consultant Shauna Hackstock. Ms. Hackstock worked with our K-2 teachers last year and will work with our 3-5 teachers this year. Her focus is on helping our teachers further develop their skills around providing small group differentiated instruction. All K-5 teachers are also administering the benchmark assessment system, also known as the BAS, up to 3 times each year. The assessment, which is like a conference, allows the teachers to sit next to a student one-on-one, listen to them read, and engage in a reading conversation. The data yielded from this assessment, in addition to other classroom data and NWEA data, allows teachers to create well-informed plans for individual readers in their classrooms. The 2019-2020 year starts the second year of administration. Last year, all teachers were trained on how to place data into Illuminate, or MyStar DNA, and custom reports were created to help teachers more effectively use data to inform instruction. This fall, our writing curriculum was completed and rolled out to staff at the elementary level. The curriculum is set up to be taught also in a workshop format and follows the same structure as our reading curriculum. So when students are learning about the characteristics of a narrative story in reading, they are working on writing narrative stories. Our curriculum has a strong emphasis on reading like a writer. Students are provided with model texts that serve as real-life examples of the type of writing that they are studying. In addition, each grade level has rolled out 3 common assessments, except for kindergarten, which has rolled out 2, that they will be working on throughout the year. These assessments allow students to show in authentic situations what they have learned. For example, in 2nd grade, after the students have learned how to write opinion pieces, they are asked to write a letter to the building principal to persuade them about something that they think needs to be changed or improved within their building. Teachers will be assessing these pieces of writing using a rubric and placing the scores into Illuminate. This will allow us to continue to collect data that can be used to inform instruction and curriculum development. Finally, we have created K-12 writing rubrics for the 3 types of writing that are required within the Michigan Academic Standards, and those are narrative, argumentative, and informational. Having vertically aligned common rubrics makes sure that as a district we are assessing our students on the writing standards set forth by the state in a consistent manner. It also allows us to see where our areas of strength are and where we need to focus more time within our curriculum. Word study. A word study program allows teachers to provide differentiated, efficient, and effective instruction in phonics, spelling, and vocabulary. Word study teaches students to examine words to discover the regularities, the patterns, and conventions of the English language in order to read, write, and spell it. It increases specific knowledge of words, including the spelling and meaning of individual words. We rolled out a new word study curriculum this fall for all K-5 teachers. In addition to professional development this summer and at the beginning of the school year, our instructional coaches have been focused on providing support to our teachers. They are modeling lessons, helping teachers plan, and answering questions. We want to make sure that teachers are provided with the support that they need in order to feel successful. We're going to move to our secondary curriculum. 6th through 10th grade curriculum teams completed their work over this past summer, and new curriculum was rolled out this fall. Our curriculum for all these classes includes units that are built around large concepts and standards. There was a great deal of work done not at just each grade level, but across levels to make sure that there is a strong vertical alignment between courses. Included at all grade levels is also an expectation that students have an opportunity to participate in choice reading. Choice reading allows students the opportunity to practice the skills that they are learning in class on texts that they enjoy. Choice reading also allows our teachers the opportunity to differentiate instruction through practices like conferring and small group instruction. Each grade level also has developed 2 common assessments. These assessments allow teachers to see where students are performing and have meaningful conversations with their colleagues. This data will be put into Illuminate once the teachers have been trained on how to do that. At this point, we will create custom reports to help teachers use the data effectively to support instruction. This year, we're working on 11th and 12th grade curriculum. We began the process this summer. Teachers are working through the process of reviewing current classes and developing a plan for moving forward. All classes will be built around a common template that focuses on larger concepts and standards, just like the 9th and 10th grade courses. Common assessments will also be created. In the work we are doing, students will continue to have choice in the types of classes that they take during their junior and senior year. In the curriculum and instructions team's goal, it's one of our goals to support our teachers in implementing new curriculum and growing as professionals so that they are best able to meet the needs of our students. This year, due to the board's commitment to providing teachers with that support that they need, we have an increase in the number of instructional coaches that are part of our team. We have 1 K-3 literacy coach, 2 elementary coaches, and 3 secondary coaches. In addition, we have 5 teachers at the park serving as coaches for 1 hour of their day. This is allowing us to provide more job-embedded professional development. This model of instruction allows us to meet teachers where they are at and provide targeted professional development. Our coaches, Dr. Brady and myself, have been in classrooms supporting teachers with all of the new curriculum that we have rolled out. We are also supporting the professional learning communities at the middle and high school level by planning experiences so that teachers have the opportunity to grow their professional knowledge. In addition to providing release time for elementary teachers to work with a consultant on small group instruction, we are also providing release time for our middle school teachers to do work around best practices in ELA. Finally, our EL department continues to train teachers and coaches in SIOP. The training helps increase attention to vocabulary instruction across the curriculum so students become effective readers, writers, speakers, and listeners. These strategies learned benefit not only the EL students, but all learners. So thank you for allowing me to share a little bit in a nutshell of what's going on with the ELA department, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I see Member Kehoe itching to ask a question.
No, I wanted to make sure other people had questions. So we'd had a long conversation a few years ago about novels at the middle school level. Can you talk about how novels fit into this new curriculum and the work that we're doing? Is it only part of choice, or is it, in addition, part of the curriculum?
So in 6 through 10, there are units and there are places where there are novels, that there are some novels that they are reading, and some they're reading excerpts of novels and doing, then having some summary and then excerpts. The research is really pretty clear that if you spend more than about 2 to 4 weeks on a whole group novel, that you're really losing the kids if they're not interested in the text. You're losing the kids if it's above their reading level or below their reading level. So really, we have book clubs that are in place in there so that they are having the experience of reading novels, but they all might not be reading the same novel all at the same time.
Okay. And how's that been? I know that there was a lot of concerns both from the community and from the teachers with the previous process and some of the change. How's that going in the rollout that you've got right now?
It's actually been going really well. The teachers were really they spent a full year piloting it and talking in their departments and talking about what was important. One of the things we've left open is the opportunity to select literature from collections that we have that best meet the needs of the students that are sitting in front of us as well. So kids have an opportunity and teachers have an opportunity to meet their kids. Same with 9th and 10th grade. So they've taken out reading some of the really dense, long texts that take forever for them to read, and they're reading excerpts and other pieces of literature that kind of go in with them. And then they're having their conferences around pieces of literature that they're also choosing to read. I was just in a 10th grade classroom where they were doing book clubs around all the common novels that we think of when we think of American Lit, but there were 6 different groups all picking a book that was of interest to them and having really great conversations around it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Member Lazarowitz?
I have a family member with the EL program. Just a comment. I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. With regard to the choice curriculum, how are you ensuring the rigor when it comes to the choice? I mean, I love the whole idea of choice, giving students choices. But how are you ensuring that there's rigor so that kids are building that stamina, they're reading informational text, all of which is necessary for the SAT, college, and career.
Absolutely. So one of the training, the professional development that we're really providing with teachers is because we know the best way to do that is through individual conferencing with students. So sometimes the conference is about content and you're digging deep into the content. Sometimes it's around pushing students out of their comfort zone. So the student that only ever wants to read dystopian fantasy, how do we move them to another genre that's going to be interesting to them? And so the teachers we just did a thing at the CPI conference on conferencing. Evan Green, who's our high school coach, is working with teachers up at the high school on conferencing, and it's really part of the whole idea of the whole process of having that conference and knowing how to push them on to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think sometimes rigor can feel like it needs to be something that's a harder reading level, especially when we talk about middle school kids. Sometimes high school looks a little bit different. But rigor is also how you interact with the book. So it's both. Yes, we need to make sure students are reading text that is harder, but we also need to make sure that the thinking that they're doing surrounding text is rigorous. So both of those pieces need to be in place.
Great.
Yeah, I just worry sometimes, as kids go on to college or even career, or they've got to read some dense text, do they have the stamina for that?
And really, Penny Kittle came, and if you remember last year, we talked about Penny Kittle, who's a national expert. She came and talked with our teachers, and she talked about the fact that our high school students our college students are being asked to read about 400 pages a week. And so the very first thing that we can do is build their stamina. And so that is one of the reasons around having choice in there too, is because just putting the text in front of them and having them interact with it also is a huge important part of building that stamina. And then we think about how they interact with the text and what they're doing with it. Yeah, go ahead.
We're speaking specifically about ELA today, but there's ELA components inside of other content areas. So our social studies courses, our science courses.
Right.
So it's, yes, students need to be reading inside of their ELA courses, but they also need to be reading, you're thinking about some of those
Science,
dense
social
texts, science
studies,
and
right.
social studies. And so as we do curriculum work, that's part of the conversations that we're having, that yes, they teach science, but they also have ELA components that need to be woven in. That's part of the standards that we're working on.
Okay.
It's been really interesting to me on that subject is my daughter's in the IB program and how intensive the writing is. Even in science, even in all the classes, that writing is such a huge portion of that process. And the whole ELA concepts go pervasively across the whole curriculum.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are at letter F. Action items in discussion. The only thing I just want to reiterate is that we will set aside time at a future board meeting just to solidify some of the Roberts Rules kind of procedures. And then on January 21st at 5:30, we have a board self-assessment review with Dr. Rod Green. And that was talked about last time. Everybody is available. I've checked everyone's schedule. So Superintendent Merritt, could you find us a place?
Yes. So we've actually had a conversation right now. We're waiting to confirm an invitation from our goals program to utilize their facility as a possible place, so you can see some of the additions. The meeting right now, we're looking at 5:30, and so Ms. Clark has shared that some of the students may not be able to be there, but if possible, they would also like to see if they can get some students there as well. But a great opportunity for you to see the expansion of the facility.
So I'm sorry.
So we'll confirm.
I know you just said the date. I'm just making sure my calendar's updated. What was the date?
January 21
Okay.
at 5:30.
Perfect.
And we will get the location finalized. But as we were meeting, Superintendent Merritt mentioned the goals program in that facility, and I thought that is a great opportunity. So more to come on that with regard to location. And any other follow-up board questions?
Before we go there,
Yes.
we also have another date that we need to look for with Dr. Rezmirsky. We're working on the vital behavior. If you recall, the last time we were together with that work, we were working on vital behavior number 4. And so we need to have an opportunity to come back together. And I don't know if December is a possibility, if we want to look at, I know we have one meeting in December, which is December 10th, so maybe looking at that December 3rd, or do we want to try to find some dates in the future?
I'm traveling December 3rd,
Okay.
so It doesn't work for me, but
So our board meeting is on the 10th, and I feel like the 17th would be too late. We're
I
kind
think so.
of getting into the break.
I'm traveling that week as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
So maybe if I can ask for some dates, maybe for Dr. Wierzmierski for January and beyond, and then come back at the next meeting on the 10th and discuss those, would that be helpful?
That would be good.
Okay. And would there be a preference to do a separate date or possibly tag on to a board meeting?
It's always easier for me to tag it onto a board
Right.
meeting because I do
Yes.
my best to be able to be
Yes.
here for the board meetings, whereas
And if we could sort of limit
weekends are
it.
easier for me than, but during the week, separate dates are tough.
Sounds good.
And also, if we could limit it to like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, like, this was a nice board meeting.
Right. Okay. And again, I would hate to have Dr. Len wait until 9:30 or 10, and
Yes.
then he starts.
But he could come later, too. We can look at the agenda and he can.
Right,
He doesn't have
right.
to sit for the whole board meeting.
Exactly. I guess we'll have to look at the agenda. I'm
Okay.
thinking the other option would be 5:30 to 7.
That could
Good
work as
board.
well.
Okay. All right, more to come on that one. And we have follow board questions to go through real quick. We're still waiting on the student growth data from Julie Whittams, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Timeline for bond election to voters? We
So I
got
just
that?
want clarification. I did provide timeline in board notes, but I wanted to make sure I was interpreting the question correctly, so I saw it as two different ways. So that's why I responded in board notes to say, this is what will take place once we move forward December, February. But also, I thought I heard for Trustee Borninski, you were asking for maybe the places that we would go on tour for the information campaign.
Presentations to PTOs and civic groups.
So now that we have the vote going forward, I can provide in future board notes. The last 2013 bond, for example, I think we had about 110 different locations. This really is about the time to get the show on the road, and so we'll work to identify places and then communicate, because really when we come back from winter break, we would begin those informational tours. So I can provide that list of places, and we'll begin to fill in the blanks in terms of what dates they would be available, and then have conversations around the availability of board members to join the team, which we would probably then ask that you provide to the two of us that information when you would be available. So we'll get that information in future board meetings.
Or notes.
Or notes, yes. So I think if it would be okay, so I gave the bond election, but clarify the language, if the question now would be informational dates and locations for informational campaign stops. Or is that a good way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Did you capture that, Nicole? Okay, thank you. And then possible questions for the board members to send to Superintendent Merritt for the state assessment results. We briefly went over that. And please send those to Superintendent Merritt by this Friday.
I'm not sure I remember this. I missed the last board meeting, so.
Okay.
So I don't know what this ask
So we
is.
went through a huge packet of data, and we went through it kind of like a big overview.
We
and
didn't
we were gonna,
really look at the disaggregated results.
Yeah, we were going to look at the disaggregated results later, but we still had some questions, and we just thought if we could email those questions to Superintendent Merritt as we get ready for that deeper dive conversation in December or January.
I'll go back and look at the previous thing and see if I can come up with some questions, but I may not.
Okay, because some of these questions may help guide that future discussion.
Thank you.
Okay. And the natatorium swimming pool, we got that in board notes.
Jen, I think did we do that in notes, or we talked about it at F&O and individual?
We did,
That-
we came back with legal language.
Yes, and so I think that's satisfied.
Yep. And then I have a follow-up question from today. Where did I write that one down?
3 of them.
Got 3 questions from today.
Monica did a great job
Okay.
writing them down. I
Oh,
saw
thank
it.
you.
We're looking, one, to follow up with the 9 students that would have been subject to retention under the 3rd grade reading law, to see how they have performed now on this 4th grade MSTEP. One question. Next question, how would CEPI handle communication to families that opt out of MSTEP and will use an alternative such as portfolio? And finally, we're taking a look, I can't read my handwriting.
The third one was to look at the data for the previous years to see how our proficiency has changed since we brought really intensive focus on reading going into the third grade.
Excellent. And we said, did we say 2 years worth of data? If it's
Whatever data we have, I mean,
Okay.
ideally it would be awesome if we had data that was before the third grade reading bill and before we made the really concerted efforts to drive that, and just to see what happens. I don't know whether we'll see it. I don't know whether we'll see a change. It may be that we've already always been doing that kind of intervention. I don't know.
I think that's a great question.
Perfect.
Okay.
If that handwriting wasn't a sister, I might have been retained.
It's better than mine. I've got like 3 words. I couldn't figure that out. Okay. I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to end the meeting for tonight.
I second it.
Okay. Motion was made by Member Brooks and seconded by Member Lazarowitz. Any discussion?
There's no
There's no
discussion.
discussion.
Oh,
on
that's
Robert
right. Thank
rules
you.
only.
Robert's rules, I gotta read more of that. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned, 8:54.